Hello, good evening. My name is Alejandro Suero. This is for Physics 1401 lab experiment. The lab experiment is data collection and mainly to seek the hypothesis for each of the experiment. And there are three experiments for this lab. Particularly, I will briefly walk through and summarize each experiment. Experiment number one is we had to mainly to hypothesize the velocity of a pitching ball. In this case, I used for this experiment a tennis ball, if you will. Here's the ball, and there were three persons involved for this experiment. Before we performed the exercise, we had to measure the distance of the pitched ball and of the ball that was pitched. So we measured with the tape measure. Here it is, and we used we measured out to be approximately 15 feet. We used the starting point. The pitcher, in this case, had to pitch the ball to the catcher. And we set up a timer for the time that the pitcher pitched the ball to the catcher, and thereafter we measured the velocity, how long it took from the pitching to the catcher, and we performed this about three times. So each of the pitcher, three people involved, and each person performed three pitches, and as well as catches. So at the final end, the result, we had to hand calculate mathematically the data and input it into the computer and spreadsheets. We gather up all the velocity, the computation of the velocity, time, acceleration as well, and the distance from the pitching to the catching point. Experiment number two, we went to the sidewalk, and we used this ball for the experiment. We rolled this ball along the sidewalk, but before we did that, we measured a distance. We used a yardstick, at the same time we also use a tape measure, and it's at a distance of 6 meters. So the ball was to be rolled for 6 meters. The starting point is 1 meter, and the final point is 6 meters. But I placed a scotch tape for each meter that the ball had rolled past, and I had another person set up a timer from the starting point of 1 meter. The ball traveled from 1 meter to the second meter, which is 2 meters. The time was recorded. 2 meters to 3 meters, time was recorded again until it got to arrived at 6 meters. The hypothesis was to find out the velocity of the the ball that had been rolled along the sidewalk. If the velocity of the ball increased or decreased. We gather up collected the data and transmit it into the computer and spreadsheets, and we were to finalize the result to see if the velocity of the ball increased or decreased. And in this experiment, we determined that the velocity of the ball decreased. The third experiment, the final experiment, we mainly this experiment was it's about projectile motion. Is dropping an object from the air, or holding the object and dropping onto the floor. We had to record a time it took from the object to drop. In this case, we used a ball. So for the person holding the ball dropped the ball onto the floor. We recorded the time it took from the ball that's being held onto the floor and then dropped onto the floor. Recorded the velocity, the time, and the distance that the ball was being held from the floor. Thereafter, we gathered all the data, transmitted to the computer spreadsheets, and then we set up organized tables, charts, and had to organize all the scientific data and everything that we had gathered from the experiments, the 3 experiments. So at the end result, it was a great experiment. Thank you. Have a good night.